Mr. Scott is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Administrator Looman, for being with us today. We've heard a lot about misclassification. It usually is talking about independent contractors, but in compliance with the Davis-Bacon Act, a lot of people are misidentified in their job. Is that something that Wage and Hour gets into?
So thank you, Congressman Scott. We are both responsible for ensuring that all workers are covered, that are covered by the Fair Labor Standards Act receive their hard-earned minimum wages and overtime. We are also responsible for enforcing the worker protections under the Davis-Bacon Act, which requires that workers who are performing work on federally funded construction projects receive the prevailing wages for the type of work that they're performing.
And what happens when someone is misdesignated as a lower classified worker when actually they're doing higher quality work?
So thank you, Congressman Scott. Sometimes there's sort of two different types of misclassification. So we talk a lot about, and we've been talking a lot today about misclassification of employees as independent contractors, but you're absolutely right. Sometimes when we're looking at federally funded construction projects, because we establish prevailing wages for different types of workers under the law, sometimes a worker may be paid the wrong prevailing wage under Davis-Bacon because they're not classified appropriately for the type of work that they're performing. And we very much work with the contractors, the contracting agencies, as well as workers to make sure that they're getting the correct prevailing wage.
Flight attendants have raised the question of when the work begins. Apparently, a flight attendant doesn't start on the clock until the door closes, when in fact they were doing work-related activities before then. Question has come up when you show up at the job and suit up. Do you start getting paid then, or do you start getting paid when you get to your job site, cleaning up and those kinds of things? How do you know, in the question of flight attendants not getting paid until the door closes, how do you know when this clock starts for the purpose of minimum wage and overtime?
Thank you, Congressman Scott. One of the fundamental issues that we address in every investigation in the Wage and Hour Division, but also in our compliance assistance and our outreach and education, is making sure that workers and employers understand when they're required to pay minimum wages and when overtime occurs. And so we very much are focused on making sure that everyone understands that that off-the-clock work, as you are very familiar with, is not permissible under the Fair Labor Standards Act, that workers need to be paid for all hours that they're working, and that workers need to make sure that they're paid correctly on payday. So we are very much focused in the Wage and Hour Division of addressing when work starts, when work ends, what work is compensable, and we provide an enormous amount of guidance for employers and work very closely with employers, but also want to make sure workers know that they should be getting paid when they're working.
It's the question of flight attendants. Is that before your office now?
Congressman Scott, we don't currently have, as far as I'm aware, I'm not aware of any specific issues related to the flight attendants and pay at this time.
You indicated that you've been essentially flat funded for a decade. The Biden administration fiscal year 24 budget would reverse the trend and allow you to hire almost 400 new staffers. What difference would that make in allowing you to fulfill your mission?
Thank you, Congressman Scott. That very much would make an enormous difference in our ability to be able to help more workers, help more employers, prevent more wage theft, make sure that we are preventing more misclassification of workers as independent contractors. The foundational work that we do in the Wage and Hour Division, which is make sure that workers get at least $7.25 an hour and at least time and a half after 40 hours in a work week. All of that work is so important and would only be helped, supported, and expanded by our ability to have more resources.
Thank you. Many states have eliminated the 14C program that allows lower payments for those with disabilities. Can you discuss how the Wage and Hour is working to protect the rights of workers with disabilities under the 14C program?
Thank you, Congressman Scott. Yes, it's our responsibility to enforce the worker protections under the 14C program. It's also our responsibility to issue certificates to employers who are seeking to pay lower than the $7.25, less than minimum wage rate to workers with disabilities. We currently have certificates issued to about 850 employers who are paying or approved to pay sub-minimum wages. This is a dramatic decrease over time. And so our responsibility is to make sure that when workers are working under a 14C certificate, that they are getting exactly what they are supposed to be getting and are protected. It's also our responsibility to hold employers accountable when they're not following the requirements of the 14C program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.